The law of warning. Nothing happens in our lives that has not been previously announced, although at times we have difficulty seeing the warnings. When we begin to understand what the learning of life is, our ideas become clearer and mental confusion disappears, making way for a new experience. Problems begin to be seen as opportunities for learning, what was difficult becomes easy, and the appropriate tools are acquired to establish excellent relationships, stabilize physical health, achieve abundance and prosperity, and enjoy life immensely anywhere doing any activity that we are meant to do. Educators' purpose with regard to their children and pupils is to make learning as easy as possible for them, starting always with the simplest examples and exercises. However, when the student for some reason commits errors of omission, wasting life's opportunities, or excess, doing something they are not intended to do, then each time the circumstances around them will present a higher level of difficulty. They will be warned of this frequently by fathers, mothers, teachers, friends, bosses, or by someone who life has placed in our path with expressions like, "If you don't make the most of studying now while you're young, it'll be very hard for you to do it later. If you don't do your homework, you can't watch television. You know life is very hard when you're poor. Those who are ignorant limit their chances of being successful in life." Life, like educators, also intends our learning to be as least traumatic as possible. However, our ignorance, stubbornness, pride, and learned limitations often lead us to face situations that are increasingly difficult and at times dramatic, due to our inability to observe, read, and obey the signs of life that manifest in the law of warning. When this happens, we complain about bad luck, resigning ourselves to our destiny, without knowing that each of us is the architect of our own destiny, and that it is designed in accordance with our own level of ignorance. Life warns us of what we are not meant to experience. Life gives us advance warning about difficulties that we can avoid if we are prepared to follow the order of the universe, otherwise our lives will become complicated to give us another opportunity to learn to obey the laws. For something to be classified as a warning, there has to be a block, i.e., something that does not work, that does not flow in any way. When there are difficulties but we observe that nevertheless things are making progress, albeit slowly, we will know that we can work in that direction. We can learn from life in a simple and pleasant manner, and even enjoy the learning, if we forget about free will and we devote ourselves to obeying the law of warning. Disobeying the law will always be a cause of suffering, but it is the only way that those who are ignorant, disobedient, arrogant, stubborn, and proud have of discovering the existence of the law, and how. By confronting it with their high ideas about freedom, independence, and sufficiency in order to finally discover that the only way of freeing themselves from all pain, conflict, and suffering is to obey the law. Suffering ends at the limit of our ignorance, that is, where our understanding begins. The law of warning is designed to avoid us futile suffering, and manifests in a very subtle way, through simple and apparently insignificant details that generally arise in sequences of 3 or more warnings, such as an inconvenient telephone call that delays us, losing one's keys, a punctured tire, a roadblock, a cancelled flight. In these situations we usually complain, "Why does this happen to me?" when life is merely warning us about something, that we should not keep that appointment or go on that trip. On other occasions, the law of warning speaks to us about business deals, investments, relationships, health, etc. It also manifests in certain repetitive situations in which we always make the same mistake, or adopt the same attitude or reaction, paying no attention to the warning. It is then that life leads us to experience much harder things in order to succeed in teaching us new attitudes to life, because the easier trials were not sufficient to induce understanding and a change in attitude. The possibilities of the law of warning are almost infinite. However, there is one trait that defines them fairly accurately, because in most cases they appear as details that are apparently unrelated to the situation, which can only be interpreted by the person for whom they are intended due to the relationship between the warning and the intended action. For example, someone tells us something about a place without knowing that we intend to go there. They speak to us about a business without knowing that we are thinking of setting it up. On other occasions, people we do not know tell us things that are related to the situations we are experiencing, or otherwise what we were thinking of doing is blocked. 1. A distinction must be made between a sense of warning and fear. Although at times it is a form of protection, in the majority of cases fear becomes an obstacle, particularly in the relationship between parents and children and, in general, between persons who have a sentimental relationship. In these cases, what predominates is the fear of losing, and those involved cannot be objective in their feelings. That fear is not a warning, it is a mental limitation. Generally, the greatest satisfactions that we have in life are obtained precisely by doing things we were afraid of. Difficulties are an opportunity to learn something, a challenge, whereas fear is one of the great limitations for developing our inner potential and achieving success and satisfaction in life. Get more at ultimatemasters.org.